Hello, welcome to Live Talk for January the 2nd, 2018. I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for joining us. And this is a big show for us. And we're going to be giving you some information here in a minute that I think you'll find very interesting, or at least we do. We started Live Talk in 1999. In May of 99, we did our first show. We started building this studio in middle of 98. Took us a long time to build it because we didn't know what we were doing. None of us had ever done that. If you saw the first shows that we did, you will notice that we didn't know what we were doing. The first show that we did was an hour-long show. It took us 2 weeks to film and edit that first show. That's how bad we were. Eventually, we got that show down to where we were shooting it and having it finished editing by the end of that day. And today, that's.
I'm sure Zentra could testify to that, too.
Zentra was here all through the thing, and it was a nightmare. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. But, over the years, we've been very, very blessed in that basically every mover and shaker in the pro-life movement over the last 20 years has been here at least once, some of them several times. And we have been truly blessed to have the kind of people come through here that we've had, and to do all the things that we've done, so many things that are kind of standard fare in the pro-life movement today were actually introduced here on Live Talk. This is where the baby parts thing was revealed, and that was our investigation, and we revealed it on a Live Talk show. And our child predator project and Alpha 21 and all of those things that are just standard parts of the pro-life movement today were all Life Dynamics projects that we introduced here.
Right.
And like I said, meeting all the people that have come through here all over the years, and of course you weren't here for most of that time, but it's been an incredible experience to think about.
It's just been an honor, I'm sure.
It has been, and we still have tapes of all the old shows. Every show that we ever did, we've got it either on tape or on DVD, and I can go back and plop one of them in. I can go back and put that first show in. I'm embarrassed to see how bad we were. But we were getting started. We didn't know we didn't have a clue what we were doing. None of us had ever done anything like this. And, of course, the audience stuck with us all the years, and we've done a lot of shows, many, many hundreds of shows, like I said, since 1999. And but this is going to be the last show that we do from this studio. We're in the process of moving. We're going to start moving tomorrow. And so the next time you see us, it will be in our new studio. We've been telling you that this was coming for some time. And so the next time you see us, it will be in the new studio and the new set. And we're going to change some things around. And we've got some really exciting things planned for the future of Life Talk. I think it's safe to say that the past of Life Talk has been pretty bright. But I think the future for what we're doing now, mainly because of social media,
right,
and the opportunities that we have on social media, I think what we're going to be able to do in the future is going to be really good.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting stuff that's coming up.
Right, it will be. Yeah. And so, we're looking at this as, it's a sad thing. Obviously, every show that we've ever done. We've done right here, and I've been on every show.
I was about to say that.
Since May of 99, except for one.
You didn't miss. Oh, you've missed one.
You did one show.
Oh, I did one without you. That's right, because you were sick.
Yes. The only time I've taken off work for sick in 25, 30 years. And I have to be pretty sick to take off, especially miss a Live Talk day.
Right.
But anyway, I've been in every Live Talk since 1999, since May of 99. Except for that one that you did by yourself.
Melissa says congratulations.
Well, thank you, Melissa. And so, but don't think this is the end. This is just the beginning of a new beginning, is the way I'm looking at it. And we're real proud of what we've done in the past, and we're real excited about what we've done. And it's been a neat run. And it is kind of sad and emotional.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah, it is, to leave this studio.
Right.
I mean, every show we've ever done has been on this set right here.
Right.
And so
I'm looking forward to seeing where God is going to take us and how we're going to move forward. And I know that we've got a lot of things on the table and a lot of things planned, but
right. Yeah.
it's going to be good.
And just in the last I'd say, week or 10 days, God has revealed a lot of things to us, moved in a lot of directions that's made this move possible. And,
Right.
And in the long run, it's going to be the best thing for us.
That's right.
But in the short term, it's like a lot of things that you do. It's painful in the short term, but you know that in the long term.
Right. It's the best.
Right. It's going to be. You know, the analogy that I've often drawn to things like this is, let's say that you're feeling perfectly fine, but you have an annual checkup every year, which I know you do. And so let's say that you're feeling perfectly fine, but you go to your annual checkup and they say, oh, Renee, you've got a problem. And it's not life-threatening or anything, but we've got to operate on you, and so we're going to operate on you and take care of this problem, right? Okay, so you have this operation. Now, here's the question. The day you have this operation, do you feel better or you feel worse than you did the day before?
You know, I was going to use the analogy with my husband because he did have an operation, and he's
hurting right now.
obviously hurting really bad, but every day is a little bit better. So.
Right. And you know that in the long term, this is going to be the best thing.
Right.
You know.
Definitely.
And so the same thing is true here. We're having an operation basically.
Right.
And so for right now we're hurting and we're worse off than we were, a couple of months ago before this all came about, and we knew we were going to be making these changes. But in the long run, we know that it's going to be better.
Right.
We know things are going to get better, that we're going to look back one day and say, yeah, that was a painful thing to go through. Like when I've been operated on from, my motorcycle wrecks and all that kind of stuff. And most people probably don't know. I was, as you know, I was in bed for a year one time.
Long time.
With a motorcycle wreck.
Yeah.
And I'm still not smart enough not to continue to ride motorcycles. So, but at least I've got somebody to take over for me if one of them gets me. But anyway,
they're dangerous, Mark. They're dangerous.
Right. But anyway, when you've been riding 57 years, which I have, you don't
look at it like that.
You don't get off that train very easily.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a painful thing right now, and it's sad, but and it's I just showed you a part of the set.
Right.
Back here behind this set.
That's the original.
It's part of the original set. It's the only thing that's left from the original set. It's still there.
Right. We want it, yeah.
Right. So, like I said, the future is going to be bright once we get over this initial bump in the road.
And we want to thank everybody for sticking with Life Dynamics and Life Talk and watching the shows.
Right.
For as long as you've been doing them.
And it's like I said, it's just going to get better. So we're looking forward to it. Now, I want to talk a minute about one of the projects that we've been telling you about is the campus project. And it's ready to go. That's basically your project, and you've been putting it together. And it's basically ready to go. But what we didn't think about was we were going to introduce it around the January 22nd activities.
Right.
Because the media is always looking for something new to cover. Yeah. And what we're going to be doing is going to be new. But then we found out that a lot of these universities aren't back from.
Yeah, they don't go back to school for the spring semester until the 23rd or so.
24th or whatever.
It's after the anniversary.
So what we're going to do is wait and drop it the first week in February.
Yeah.
And
summer, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. It'll make a big splash, and it's going to be I think it's going to be an ongoing project for the college campuses, because we have got to be on those campuses. The pro aborts are burning the midnight oil.
Yeah.
To take back control of these kids, because they know they've lost them. Right now, the fastest growing segment of the pro-life movement is these very young kids. The pro aborts are pulling out all the stops. And if we don't get on those campuses, and I mean if we're not on those campuses aggressively, they're going to steal them.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to lose
right.
Our kids.
And Life Dynamics is not going to sit around and let that happen. So that'll be something we'll be talking about probably about the time we're ready to do our next Life Talk. We get our new studio built and get moved and all that kind of stuff. About that time, that thing should be hitting. Right. So anyway, we're going to be out of pocket, like I was say, for a few weeks. And we told you that this was coming. We told you some time ago. And
that time is here, and
it's exciting. Like I said, it's sad and it's emotional, but it has to be done, and we know that in the long run, what God's planned for us is the best thing for us.
Right.
And on that vein, I want to make sure everybody understands. I think that 2018 is going to be a pivotal year in the pro-life movement. I think there's so many things happening right now, so many opportunities opening up for us. We better be prepared. We have enormous opportunities that are starting to present themselves in the pro-life movement. And our responsibility, if God throws these in front of us, our responsibility is to take advantage of them. That's what he expects us to do.
Right, and we need to.
And we need to. And we've got a lot of things. And, you know, I think one of the things that we've seen in the past, and I think we're seeing it to some degree right now, is people have this mistaken view that when you elect a guy president who claims to be pro-life, that we can all take a deep breath and sit back and let him do all the work.
Not hardly.
Not hardly.
Right.
And if you think that Donald Trump or these Republicans are going to do all our work for us, you are crazy as a drugstore rat. It's not true. We've got to work. What they've done, let me tell you what the big advantage of Donald Trump is. It's not that he's going to do all the pro-life work for us. It's that he's not going to interfere with the pro-life work that we do. That's the distinction between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton had been elected president,
She
the
would
pro-life,
put every stop to
yes,
anything that went on.
the
Anything that
pro-life
we tried to
movement
do.
would be in deep trouble today. They'd be unleashing the Justice Department on us, and which we now know is thoroughly corrupt. The United States Justice Department, the FBI, all these. This is a corrupt entity. If a person as corrupt as Hillary Clinton was in control of them, it'd be worse than when her husband was in control of it. And those of us who lived through that time can tell you, it was a frightening time. I've told you some of the things that were going on around here.
Right.
How they were coming after us and every other pro-life group in this country. And they were labeling us all terrorist organizations so that they could tap our phones, open our mail. Our phones were being tapped right here. Our mail was being opened. Our building was being watched. We were being followed home. All kinds of weird, and that's just some of the things that were going on at the time. And that was under Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton would have been worse. So let's not look at what's happening here as saying, okay, Donald Trump's going to do this, Donald Trump's going to do that, and he's going to help us. No, that's not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is he won't get in our way, but we still have to do the action. We have to take the actions. Either we're going to save the unborn or they're not going to get saved. You know, I've got a letter out right now to our database, and I talk about I make an analogy to the Alamo, between the Alamo and the pro-life movement. I won't go into all the details, many of which you know because you're a Texan, born and raised here. But at the Alamo, there were 189 guys there under the leadership of William Barrett Travis, and Santa Anna had them surrounded with 5,000 to 7,000 Mexican soldiers, and they were trying to delay them. The Texans were trying to delay the Mexicans to keep them from going after Sam Houston's army. And they kept waiting. They had been promised by some military leaders in Texas that help was going to be on the way. And they kept waiting. And there was a 500-person contingent supposed to be coming from Goliad. That's just one of them. And Travis got a communique brought into the Alamo in which he was told that all 500 of those Texas people that were headed to the Alamo had been captured by Santa Anna soldiers, and all of them were executed. They were burned. They were literally burned to death, all of them, every one of them. And so they weren't coming. And at the end, there were only about 150 soldiers there at that time. And eventually, 30-something soldiers showed up from Gonzales, Texas, but that's it. And Travis brought them all together and said, look, here's the situation that we're in. We've been promised reserves. We've been promised help is coming. He said, nobody's coming. We're alone. We're here right now. This is it. And he said, now Santa Anna's offered every one of you the right to leave if you want to, because he doesn't want to fight here. We're going to hold him up, and we're going to bleed his army, and he knows that. He wants to go after Sam Houston. But I'm standing fighting. And this is where a lot of people don't know, you hear we're drawing a line in the sand. That term, the line in the sand, came from the Alamo. because that's what Travis did. He went out and took his sword and drew a line in the sand and says, anybody wants to leave, cross that line and walk out the gate. And Santa Ana's guaranteed you good passage. You can take your horses, you can take your guns, you can take whatever you want. But I'm staying. And of course, these guys knew what the consequences were. There's 189 of them in there, and there's 5,000 to 7,000 Mexican soldiers surrounding the Alamo. So they knew that if they stayed, they were all going to get killed. And Santa Anna had said, no one is going to survive. We don't take prisoners. Everybody will be executed. Even if you're taken alive, you'll be executed. And David Crockett was. We now know that he was taken alive, and they cut his throat. But anyway, they all stayed. And they all wrote letters on the night of the 13th, or the night of the 12th, and the 13th they knew Santa Anna was attacking the next day with his full force, and because he had to go after Sam Houston. And they all wrote letters, and you can read those letters down. I don't know if you've ever been to the Texas History Museum in Austin, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of those letters are down there, and they put them on display, and you can read them. And you know what was weird is, it was obvious that these guys never understood what was going on, really, until Travis told them, you're alone.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't until then that they fully realized what this was about.
And then they stood up and they were committed.
And you know, Travis had told them, he said, I think that if, I'm staying. You guys can cross the line and leave if you want. And they opened the gate and drew a line in the sand and said, walk across the line and walk out. None of them left. They all stayed. And he told him, he said, I think if you'll stay and fight, he said, we'll show the world what patriots are made of. That's what we've got to do. We claim to be pro-life. We've got to show the world what pro-lifers are made of. And we've got opportunities this year that we're not going to, they're going to come one time. They're not going to come again. We better take advantage of them. And those guys stayed down there, and all of them were killed. Every one of them were killed. But Travis said, I think each one of you will take 10 Mexicans with you. We're going to sell our lives dearly.
Right.
Guess how many they took?
About 10 apiece.
About 10, yep. So 189 guys gave their lives to buy a few days for Sam Houston and to take 2,000 Mexican soldiers with them, which is what they did. As soon as the battle was over, Santa Anna and his men took off after Sam Houston. Finally caught up with him in East Texas at San Jacinto. But their army was crippled by that time. They had lost 2,000 men. They had traveled all this way. They had been splintered a little bit.
Right.
And in 18 minutes, Sam Houston beat Santa Anna. In 18 minutes, that battle was over. And, like I said in this letter, a new country was born. So we can take that as an example. But we're alone. And I've said this before, we keep sitting in this movement and we face the pro-aborts out there on the other side of the battlefield. And we look at them and we say, okay, we're going to fight these guys. But then we turn around and look behind us and we go like this, like, come on, guys. And we look at the Republican Party and we look at the church, and there's a big hill behind us, and we know they're on the other side of that hill. And we know that if they come flying over that hill, it's over. If the church and the Republican Party came over that hill and fought with us, the Democrats and the pro-aborts would go running into the night. It would be over.
Right.
They couldn't stand up to the church or the Republican Party, either one. And so we know that. And we keep looking behind us and calling them to come fight with us. You say you're on our side. You say you're pro-life. You say you're, pro-family. You're all those things. Well, come fight.
Right.
There's the enemy.
Right.
But they're not coming.
But they're not coming, yeah.
They're not going to come.
Yeah.
And every ounce of energy that we use up trying to get them to come over that hill is an ounce of energy that we do not use on the enemy that's in front of us. And what we need to say to these guys is, we wish you were coming, but we know you're not. God will deal with you. Let God work that out. Let's concentrate on what we're doing here. And I think that in 2018, what we need to look at is that Donald Trump isn't going to come running over that hill either. But he's at least not going to get in our way. He won't be putting us in jail. He won't be opening our mail and threatening us and all the things that were going on back during the previous Clinton administration.
Yeah.
So we've got all these opportunities. But I think it's time for all of us just to recognize that these guys aren't coming, that we're alone. And like I said, that at the Alamo was when those guys realized what was truly at stake here and what was truly going on. Everything changed for them. You can read it in their letters when they're talking about it. When they discovered that nobody was coming, so what you've got to decide right now is, how much is this worth to you?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Their whole demeanor changed.
And as I said in that letter, not one of those guys ever lived in a free Texas. Not one of them. But every one of them knew that in order to make Texas free, their blood had to be in the soil. And so they stayed. And that time that they used up allowed more soldiers to come join with Sam Houston. And it bled the Mexican army so that when they got to Sam Houston, they were severely crippled from what they were. And in 18 minutes, the battle was over. And so that's what we need to understand, is that we'll be a lot better off. We will be exponentially better off when we accept the fact that we're alone. The Republicans aren't coming. The church isn't coming. Now, you can we'll draw the line in the sand. If you're waiting here for them to come and you think that that's what you're doing, and so you're not going to fight too much until they come, then cross that line and walk out the gate. But I'm staying, and you're staying. And most of the people that I know in this movement are going to stay. But we got to quit wasting energy waiting on these guys to come. There are no reserve troops coming. They don't have the courage to come over that hill. They're going to stay right there on the other side where it's nice and safe and
where they're comfortable. Yeah.
Where they're comfortable.
Right.
And so, as we enter this new year, this is the message I want you guys to take from it. And especially as we make these changes here at Life Dynamics, and we'll be gone for a few weeks here because it's going to take us a while to get moved and get the new studio built. And you cannot imagine, you can't even begin to imagine what a nightmare. I mean, you've seen around here, and even you don't know what a nightmare it's going to be to undo this studio and move it and reset it up. It's going to be unbelievable. But this is what God wanted. We asked God to give us direction. We've been praying for it. He did. We're off to the races.
That's right.
And it's going to be better than ever on the other end. In the meantime, we fight. And I want you guys at home to think about what I've said about the fact that about us being alone, because you've got to decide how committed you are to this battle. Are you willing to fight it alone? Are you willing to fight it knowing that your natural allies, the church and the Republican Party, have abandoned you? Are you willing to fight under those circumstances? Because that's the circumstances we're in. And if you're not willing to fight under those circumstances, I understand. That's fine. Just like those guys at the Alamo, you could have hardly blamed any of them for saying, hey, there's 7,000 Mexican soldiers out there. There's 189 of us. We're surrounded. We're in this little church. So basically, I think it's the most well-known Catholic mission in the history of the world is the Alamo. A lot of people don't even know that it was a Catholic mission, but that's what it was. It was basically a Catholic church. We're here alone. Nobody knows we're here, and most people don't even care what's going on here. But we care, and we're willing to stay and fight. We've got to have that same attitude. And I can tell you, from my standpoint, that is my attitude. It's always been my attitude, and it always will be. And I think you've adopted that attitude since you've been here.
That's my attitude, too.
Right. And so we're going to move forward. But I think this is a good chance for people to kind of step back and say, we're entering a new year. Here's all the situation that we know. Nobody's coming, but at least we have somebody in the White House that will not get in our way, that will not put us in jail for trying to protect the unborn,
right,
or destroy our families for trying to protect the unborn,
yeah,
or whatever they might do. So, yes, it's a godsend that Hillary Clinton is not president, obviously. But that doesn't mean Trump's going to do our work for us, because he's not. He's not going to do our work for us. We got to do it. And if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So anyway, that's my little Alamo speech.
Well, we thank you for the reminder.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, you ought to study it sometimes. It's real interesting. The Alamo is a neat story. It's even so neat, Renee. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not. A lot of people, they'll say, oh, yeah, the Alamo is one of the brightest spots in American history, and it changed this and it did this. The Alamo is not part of American history. It's part of Texas history. Texas is the only state that was a country before it was a state. We were the Republic of Texas for 8 years, from 1836 to 1845, for 9 years, I'm sorry. 1836 to 1845. We were a standalone country. We had our own constitution, everything.
Right. Some people know that.
A lot of people know that.
Yeah.
But that's what created, the Alamo is what created that. And, you know, it's interesting to think that if you say to people, where did Texas win its independence? Most people outside of Texas would say, oh, I'm sure that was the Alamo. No, we lost at the Alamo. Mm-hmm. Every man at the Alamo got killed. But their death made the victory 6 weeks later at San Jacinto possible. Without them doing what they did at the Alamo, San Jacinto would have never happened. And so, or it would have happened, and Santa Anna would have still had all his troops, and they'd have still been unbled, and they would have just overrun.
Right.
Sam Houston didn't have hardly any troops. And he had no troops. I mean, this is one of the biggest battles in the history of the world, and it was fought without soldiers. One side didn't have any soldiers. They only had farmers and bankers and so forth, landowners, or people that were trying to be landowners. But anyway, it's a real interesting thing to study. But what you learn about it is, it's the classic example of people saying, this is my duty, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to worry about what the results are. This is my duty to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm saying those guys didn't understand what was going on until they accepted that they were alone.
Right.
But finding out that they were alone did not change what their duty was. And so they stayed. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to understand. The fact that the church won't help us, the fact that the Republican Party won't help us is irrelevant to us. Our duty is still the same. If we're pro-life, we took an oath to protect the unborn and their moms against these butchers at these abortion clinics. That's the oath we took. Now, what other people do has nothing to do with that. You and I have that oath no matter what they do, even if we're the last two people on earth. That's still our duty. We have to stand and fight.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying those guys didn't understand what was really going on until they figured out that they were alone. The quicker we figure that out, the better off we'll be. I guarantee you. What else you got? Anybody?
Nothing.
Messages or?
No, actually, no. I don't know how to turn it off.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Internet was a little bit slow here.
Oh,
so,
it was? Okay.
yes.
Well, anyway, like I said, we're going to be, do you have anything?
No, I just, Happy New Year's, and I hope and pray that it got off to a good start, and
Right.
and we do what Mark says, we stand up and fight.
Right. We're going to stand here and fight. And that's the way we're going to, I still say the pro-life movement's like the Alamo. If we just accept that we're
Right.
going to have to fight alone, we have a responsibility. And what other people do is their business. It's kind of like, I'm sure you've had your situation with one of your three kids, probably all three of them, where they wanted to do something and you wouldn't let them, and they'll say, but so-and-so's mom's letting them do it.
And that does not matter.
What difference does that make?
None at all.
What they do,
Right.
if every kid in the school gets to do this, you're not, right?
That's right.
So you've had to have that conversation, I'm sure, more than once. I know your kids, I'm sure that they sprung this on us on you a few times. But anyway, so our duty does not change regardless of what anybody else does, and that includes the church, and that includes the Republican Party. They have to face God with that. God will judge them, and that's his business to take care of that. We do what we want to do, what we're supposed to do. Is that it?
That's it.
We'll be back in a few weeks, and until then, if you need anything, be sure and let us know. If you have an idea for a show, be sure and let Renee know. And we're going to be back, and we're going to be making some changes to the way the show is done. Then we're going to be introducing some new features to the show, and I think it's going to be really, really good. We're really looking forward to the future. And what we've done so far between the time we stopped doing the monthly show on DVD and started doing these Life Talk Lives on Facebook and YouTube and all the other formats that we go on, what we've done now is we've learned how to do it. And so now when we recreate it, we'll have a lot more knowledge than what we started out with. And as a matter of fact, you can go back and look at don't go back to the 1999 and look at our first shows there. Go back to our first Facebook shows. They were horrible. They were awful. It was like amateur night again, all over again. We started over. Matter of fact, in some ways, I think it was worse than what it was in 1999 when we first started Life Talk. But we've learned a lot since then, and we're going to make it better. And like I've always said, this show is about you. It's not about us. So you tell us what you want to see. You tell us what you want to hear, and we'll try to keep you apprised of what's going on. But anyway, I think that's it.
That's it.
You're done?
Yep.
All right. Until we get back, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next time.
See you then.